Alright, if you are wandering in the wild, it's not the loud animals you should fear. Instead, it should be the silent assassins that are built to take down prey. And you know what? When you think of deadly animals that make you wish you had closed captioning on reality, I bet the African leopard comes to mind. In fact, they are considered the most successful big cat in terms of hunting. And this is very impressive given that they compete against lions and hyenas. But there is a cat in North America that not only rivals a leopard's success, but also faces off against bears and wolves. And that is the North American cougar. Yes, in today's video, we'll be determining who would win in a fight between a leopard and a cougar. Could this overgrown house cat beat a famous big cat in a fight? Well, I want to use actual science and facts to determine a verdict. And you know what? The results may shock you. But here's my question. Why is the leopard considered a big cat and the cougar isn't? Well, I'll answer that later on in this video, so be sure to stick around since it's pretty weird. But anyways, please be sure to subscribe and leave a comment on this video. It will help my channel grow. So with that being said, let's establish some ground rules. Let's say this fight takes place in a field. You know, a pretty even terrain where no animals have a direct advantage. Let's also assume this is a head-on brawl, and both are large, angry males who want to duke it out. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the video. Size and physique. The African leopard. It's infamously known for its deadly demeanor. In fact, it earned its nickname the Spotted Assassin for a good reason. It's stealthy, it's sleek, and it's powerful. So perhaps it was designed by nature to keep the antelopes in check. And did you know that it's considered pound for pound the strongest big cat? Yeah. They've been known to achieve feats such as hauling large prey up a tree in just a few seconds. So, why can leopards climb trees so well compared to other big cats? Well, you see, apart from their smaller size, they have locking ankle joints that can rotate 180 degrees, and small limbs proportioned to their body. This not only makes them very agile, but also gives them a unique fighting style which we will be discussing later on in this video. But with all of that being said, how big are African leopards? Well, mature males average around 128 pounds, and stands about 2 feet high at the shoulder. So yeah, these cats were surprisingly small when I saw them in the wild, but that doesn't take away from their strength. And did you know that leopards have a pseudo mane? Around their lower neck, mature males develop skin flaps that add protection against throat strikes. So, why do leopards have it? Well, it's thought to have developed due to hunting warthogs and possibly mating selection. Alright, that's cool and all, but how about its overall physique? You see, leopards are described as being more slender and filled with a lot more lean muscle compared to other big cats. So essentially, leopards are like the calisthenic athletes, and lions, for example, are more like bodybuilders. But leopards do have a powerful neck and scapular ligaments that help them drag prey around. In fact, they have arguably the most well-developed back muscles out of any big cat for various reasons. Okay, we get it, the leopard has a bit of a sleeper build. But how does it compare to its American opponent, the North American cougar? It goes by many names, but perhaps its scientific name, Puma concolor, which means mountain lion of uniform color, describes it best. It has no fancy spots or anything, and the fur is kinda tannish brown. And you know what? It seems to be doing the trick just fine for its environment. The North American cougar lives in western North America and a small part in Florida, cause why not? Anyways, these cats are by no means anything to be scoffed at. Yeah, leopards compete with lions and hyenas, but cougars compete with bears and wolves. Now, let's not go into the whole big cat versus bear debate and say both the leopard and cougar are equally tough. But there is one thing the cougar is keeping a secret, and that is its size. A typical male North American cougar weighs in around 140 pounds and stands about 2.5 feet tall on all fours. Wait, what? If the cougar weighs more than the leopard, then why isn't it a big cat? Well, you see, to be a big cat, you have to have a 2-piece hyoid bone which allows for roaring. So yeah, apparently to be considered a big cat, kinda means you have to roar. But roaring is just that, roaring. It doesn't really translate into an inherent advantage in a fight. But did you know that a leopard's and cougar's physiques are pretty different from one another? So what's the difference and which is superior? Well, I'm gonna take all the research I did on this topic and make it understandable because it gets really complicated with anatomy. I just don't want to bore y'all out. So first things first, let's look at their skulls. As you can see, the leopard skull is actually larger and more elongated despite it being a smaller cat. Its canines are also longer and its incisors tend to be larger and sharper. However, the cougar has a rounder and more compact skull with having a smaller mouth. Okay, so how about their bodies? Well, this is where it gets interesting. You see, in a face-off, leopards actually have a bulkier upper body compared to cougars. They have a thicker neck, larger shoulder region, and a more robust front limb/chest region. Okay, so it's not skipping out on arm days. But the cougar, however, has a larger and more muscular leg region, along with its limbs being a little longer. So what does that mean? Well, the cougar has a reach advantage, along with being more springy/jumpy. However, the leopard does have a more developed back and shoulder region, so it's gonna be a little bit more stable. Ah yes, the classic arm day versus leg day. Alright, so the cougar does have a size advantage in this matchup. However, the leopard's build tends to be stockier and more densely built. Okay, so we got their physiques down, but how about their weapons and fighting styles? After all, this is a fight, and surprisingly, the cougar and leopard fight differently. So this brings me on to my last point, which is weaponry and fighting IQ. If a cougar fought a leopard, how would it play out? Well, these are both cats but fight differently. So, who fights better and what's the difference in how they fight? Well, let's find out right now. Cougars. They are master hunters. In fact, they are one of the most successful big cats in terms of hunting. But what makes them so deadly? Well, it's no surprise they house razor sharp claws. They can grow between 1.5 to 2.5 inches in length. In fact, did you know that a cougar's claws are larger than a leopard's on average? You know, I thought it'd be the other way around since leopards climb trees, but I guess it isn't. However, realistically, the difference in claw size shouldn't make too much of a difference since it's minimal. But how they use their claws and arms does make a difference. You see, cougars are more quote-unquote slappy when they fight. They use their arms to hit more and are arguably quicker strikers. They also tend to be more manipulative with their paws compared to leopards. They kinda like to batter their opponents around and tend to angle off, which is pretty unique. And another odd thing is that cougars like to sometimes strike using both arms at the same time. Kinda weird, right? So this means that cougars kinda strike more with their arms in fights, and since it has longer limbs, they have the potential to get a first hit in and overwhelm the leopard. However, the leopard has a few tricks up its paws. First, how do leopards fight? Well, they like to leap into action, but not as you may think. They tend to lean towards their side when jumping at an opponent, almost as if they're trying to cradle it. From there on, it's a battle of grappling mixed with heavy claw strikes. And this is where their back muscles and locking wrists come in handy. They like to pin down and secure a great position to bite the neck. Oh yeah, and here's the thing that's also unique about leopards. They use their feet in brawls, especially when they're on the ground tackling their opponents. It offers the leopard a more three-dimensional way of fighting. This ability would definitely put stress on a cougar if it managed to ground the panthera. Okay, so we get it. Leopards are more grapply and uniquely fight when trying to trap their opponent. But how about mentality? After all, even though they both are deadly felids, they live different lifestyles. Alright, so when concerning behavior, it gets pretty interesting. Cougars tend to be more headstrong and willing to fight. Daring is an attribute people like to use, but I also think that cougars tend to be more hot-headed. They don't often back down unless, well, they're getting whooped. But concerning the leopard, when they get in the mood to fight, they seem to be a bit more relentless and intend on inflicting serious injuries. They also tend to go for the kill more, so they take fights very seriously. So yeah, as you can tell, this fight would be interesting. They both offer unique fighting abilities, but I think it's about time we determine a verdict. Alright, we have our stats. So, who would win between an African leopard and a North American cougar? Well, in a scenario where they're both forced to fight, I think a leopard would slip a win with very high difficulty. Honestly, this was one of the toughest verdicts I had to decide on. They both have their merits, but I think the leopard boasts a little more of an impressive build. Despite being a tad smaller, it has a larger skull, longer teeth, and a wider mouth gape that would make its bite more deadly in a fight. And sure, I think the cougar would get the first strike and might fluster the leopard at first, but after taking some time to adjust, I think the spotted assassin would become more dominant in the long run. It has a thicker neck, with a pseudo main throat flap that would make it pretty difficult for the cougar to deliver a secure neck bite, especially when considering the cougar's smaller skull morphology. And in my opinion, I think the leopard would eventually turn the fight into a grappling match, which its build is better suited for. The leopard boasts impressive back and upper limb strength that the cougar's physique doesn't really match. In a sense, it's more stable and able to hold down the cougar better rather than vice versa. The leopard also has stronger grips and wrist strength thanks to its locking ankle joints. So if the leopard grabs the cougar, it would be able to seize the flailing movements better. Overall, it would definitely be a difficult brawl for the both of them, but I think the leopard would squeak out a win more often than not.